Family Fights with Kyle Harrison and Matthew Blumenthal. Boom, there's your intro. How'd I do?
Hello, people of the MMA world. Welcome back to the Family Fights podcast. I'm Kyle Harrison. With me, as always, is my little cousin, Matthew Blumenthal.
What is up, guys?
Thank you, Chael Sonnen, for the sick intro, as always. And we made it through our very first fight card of the year. I had a good week in picks. Matthew, not so much.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Anyways, we're going to cover some current events, as always, and then we're going to go into some reactions about the fights. And then we're going to matchmake for the main card winners. And then we're going to talk just a little bit about what's coming up this week because it is fight week. It's fight week for UFC 270. Very exciting. Also, I just got to give a quick shout out to my mom, the woman that gave birth to me, my fantastic mother. It's her birthday today, Monday, January 17th. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. And also Matthew's aunt.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Aunt Stacy. I love you.
All right. And with that, let's get right into some current events. Francis Ngannou says he is done fighting for $500,000 or $600,000, wants a boxing option in his next UFC contract. How do you think Dana's going to respond to this, and how do you think the fans are going to respond to this?
Well, I think it's very crucial to point out that off the bat, that UFC means more to Francis Ngannou than Ngannou means to the UFC, which is very important to remember in negotiations. And Ngannou said he's done fighting for $500,000 and $6,000. But you can't just say that and expect to get the money right away. There's really one way to get yourself more money, and it's to market yourself better and create better hype for his fights. And Ngannou doesn't market himself very well. In his fights, for some reason, they always create medium hypes because he's the biggest puncher in the UFC. But they don't ever create, like, massive hypes. The type of hype that's, quite frankly, needed to get more than $600,000.
Right, yeah. I mean, his pay-per-view numbers are never really that good. And if we're being completely honest, he's not the most personable fighter on the UFC roster, although he's sick to watch. And I think that really makes up for his lack of personality. Go ahead.
I agree with that. I feel like every division needs at least one very, very marketable guy. And I feel like the UFC, many people are going to argue that it's Derek Lewis, but Derek doesn't do that.
You mean heavyweight?
Heavyweight, yeah, my bad. I don't think that Derek Lewis markets himself very well. I think
it's going to be Cyril Gane.
No, because Cyril doesn't do it. I think it's going to be, once he gets into the top 5, it's going to be Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah, but I don't think he has the skills to be champion, to be completely honest with you.
Well, I guess we'll see, because I think his next fight's going to be pretty big to show if he can beat, and what looks to be his next opponent is Derek Lewis. If he can beat him handily, then we're going to have to start asking more questions of if he can actually do it or not.
Yeah, and I think there's no way that Francis Ngannou gets a boxing option like he's asking for.
No.
That's just not something the UFC does, and I don't think Francis Ngannou is the one that they're going to make an exception for.
Right, and I'm kind of pissed this whole UFC fighter goes over into boxing. I feel like it's pretty clear that a UFC fighter is going to lose a boxing match and a boxer is going to lose an MMA match, and I think we should just keep the two separated, enjoy the sports as they are, and stop getting guys embarrassed by going into other sports.
Unless that MMA fighter is Anderson Silva.
Yeah, Anderson, you've been doing all right. But also, if Francis goes out and he boxes Tyson Fury, I don't think that anyone on this planet other than maybe Francis, if that, thinks he could win that fight. And if he loses that fight, then he loses the tiny bit of marketability that he ever had when he comes back to the UFC.
Right. If Francis Ngannou moves to professional boxing, there's no way that Tyson Fury is the first fight that he takes because there's way too much downside potential to that fight because he won't win it, and if he loses his first fight in boxing, then like there goes his there goes his window to box in a sense. Like if you lose your first fight, it's like, well, you tried, go back to MMA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I agree with that. Because also his power, which is the best in UFC history, but it might not translate from the 4-ounce gloves to the 16, 14, 12-ounce gloves that they wear in boxing.
Right. Let's move on to our next topic. This one is really interesting. I have it in our notes as Henry Cejudo versus Dana White. And I kind of agree with both sides of the argument for those who aren't familiar with what's going on. Henry Cejudo put his hat in the ring to take the 145 title challenger spot against Alex Volkanovski, even though he's been retired for about 2 years. And Dana White came out and basically said, you're crazy if you think you're going to get this title shot because it's not your division and you haven't been fighting. And Henry Cejudo came back and made some remark about George St. Pierre, saying, well, maybe if I was a blonde Canadian with a French accent or something like that, you would have given me the title shot. But it was something along the lines of, since I'm Mexican, you're not giving me this opportunity. And since George St. Pierre was a blue-eyed, white, Canadian, blonde-haired fighter, he was able to come and take a title shot off of even a longer layoff than Henry Cejudo in a weight class that wasn't his. So I kind of see both sides of the argument. I don't think anybody should be able to come off of a 2-year layoff and get a title shot no matter who you are. I don't think it should have happened to George St. Pierre, and I don't think it should happen to Henry Cejudo. But I see how this is frustrating for Henry Cejudo, given that there is the precedent that George St. Pierre set. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying, and give me a ticker, because he also shot a comment at McGregor saying that first he said about George St. Pierre that he wasn't blonde with a French accent.
But you brought him up. You brought him up first, so I'm in the clear now.
That's fair. So give a ticker to me. But then he said, maybe if I go punch a guy in a bar, I'll get my title shot. And then that started a little feud between Conor and Henry.
Right, and by the way, I feel the same way about if Conor were to get a title shot against Charles Oliveira. It's just not right.
Well, I think most people are talking about when he got the title shot after boxing Floyd, he got to go right into Khabib. And I think the important thing about this is that I don't love the idea of just jumping in and getting a title shot right away. I don't think you should be able to do it. But if you are, there's one exception. And I think it's that if a rivalry has been created before the option of a fight. I think that Pierre and Bisping were rivals before they gave Pierre that fight. It wasn't manufactured. And obviously Khabib and Conor were rivals before that fight got made. But I think Henry Cejudo was trying to create a beef in order to get the fight, when in the other circumstances the fight was created because of the beef.
Makes sense. Yeah, I just even in that case, when there's an established rivalry, I just think it should not happen. Like, title shots should go to people who have been consistently winning in the top of the division, not people who have been taking time off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
He also said that he's underpaid. You see that?
What'd you say?
He said that he's very underpaid, and Dana tried to give him peanuts.
Who said that?
Henry Cejudo.
Oh, like back when he was fighting?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised he's saying that. I mean, what UFC fighter doesn't say that besides a handful?
Every fighter that doesn't get what they want, the first thing they're going to say is, he tried to pay me peanuts.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our UFC Vegas 46 fight night reactions. Man, what a night. Actually, it was kind of a boring night.
It was a dud.
The main event completely made up for it in my eyes. Like, when the main event was over, thanks to Calvin Kattar, I felt like I had watched a card that ended in all finishes. I mean, it's just amazing how Calvin Kattar was able to completely turn around the beating that Max Holloway put on him and dish it out to Giga Chikadze a whole year later. It's just like certain moments in MMA that come full circle, like when Chris Weidman broke his leg after breaking Anderson Silva's leg, stuff like that. It just made me happy. What were your reactions?
I thought it was a dud of a card. When I was at doctors and hockey games all day, and then when I sat down to watch it today, I watched the entire card start to finish, and they were all just kind of fights that I was hoping would be over so I can just get to the next one, because there were exciting moments, but overall I didn't find an exciting card until the main event. The main event was phenomenal. I thought there were, like I said, good moments, but not a great card overall, but my God, was it an impressive showing from Calvin Kattar. Especially, I wonder if the max beatdown that he took was almost exactly a year away. I wonder if that played aside into his mental state coming into the fight.
Yeah, maybe he used that as motivation, but he did such a good job of pressing forward and keeping Giga on his back foot where he was unable to land the kicks that he needs to be successful. And Giga just looked like he didn't know what to do. He looked like he was panic boxing pretty early, just loading up and throwing hard shots to try and get Calvin out of there because he knew he couldn't deal with Calvin's game plan. And he was gassed after round 2. That was my impression. How about you?
Yeah, I turned it on in the middle of the first round, and my initial thought was that Giga looks terrible. He kind of looks like he underestimated Calvin, like a lot of us did. It looks like he didn't expect Calvin to actually be as good as some were saying, and he was, and he took advantage of Giga not taking him seriously.
Yeah, Giga got what he deserved. Honestly, he was being an ass all week. He was clowning Volkanovski for taking an easy fight with, in air quotes if you're not watching the video, easy fight with TKZ, which isn't necessarily an easy fight by any means. And he was essentially just looking past Calvin Kattar. He was talking all week about he was gonna walk through Calvin Kattar, get his title shot, destroy the champ. And I think he got the humbling that he needed.
Yeah, I agree. Just a quick shout out. My high school basketball team just won on ESPN. Give those boys some love. Gil St. Berners, they're awesome. But back to the fight. I think sometimes this type of fight might be what Giga needed. Maybe he was getting comfortable taking 7 straight wins in the UFC, thinking he's going to cruise his way to a title shot. Sometimes these losses are what a fighter needs to get his ass into the gym and be training the proper way. It happened to Tuivasa. He openly speaks about how when he was losing 3, it really switched him on to getting into a different mindset during training. And maybe this just propels Giga into a whole another dimension that we haven't seen before, and maybe he does go out and get his title that he's been talking so much about.
Yeah, I mean, look what it did to Calvin Kattar.
Yeah,
Calvin
for
Kattar
sure.
took a similar beating a year ago, and yeah. So, Katlyn Chookagain, Jennifer Maia. Katlyn Chookagain got the win. It was a rinse and repeat of the first fight. I was actually really, really impressed with the first round that Katlyn Chookagain took Jennifer Maia down and controlled her for so long.
Yeah, not only that she took her down, it's that she looked good doing it. She was making great transitions on the ground. She knew where to go. She had great help from her corner. Her corner did a great job of letting her know what was happening and some stuff that you might overlook with all the adrenaline of being in a fight. And she was simply impressive. I mean, she had beat Maia again, and sometimes it's really hard to win against a girl who you've already beat because you might get into a false sense of security. But Chookagian did not take Jennifer lightly. She went out, used great 1-2s. Her teeps and her knees were phenomenal, and she really looked like she was levels above Jennifer Maia, like once again.
Yeah, she looked like a whole new fighter, very much improved. Can't wait to see what's next for her. We'll discuss that later in the episode when we matchmake for the winners. Next fight, Brandon Royval gets the split decision victory versus Rogério Bontorin. How do you think the judges did? Do you think they got it right?
I thought they got it right, and that's even coming from a guy who told y'all that Bontorin is going to win. So I picked him to win, and even I knew when the final horn blew that Bontorin was not taking the victory. It was going to be Royval. And I am a firm believer that Bontorin tapped in that third round. I really think he did.
He tapped to that armbar.
For sure. But Brandon Royval, they were kind of both exactly what we expected. We expected Royval to be moving around, landing jab, getting out, landing jab, getting out. We expected Bontorin to be kind of stuck in his feet, landing big shots and getting a few takedowns.
Brandon Royval was super scrambly on the ground, fishing for submissions constantly. I mean, he got one that was successful as far as I'm concerned because Rogério tapped.
Yeah.
But, yeah, scrambly on the ground just like we expected. It was a great fight. Maybe my pick for fight of the night.
Yeah.
Even though Kattar and Chikadze won the bonus. About that, I have to say, this has been bothering me since I read that they won the bonus. I don't understand why people keep calling these one-sided fights of the night or even fights of the year. Like the Ortega and Volkanovski fight. Like, that was an exciting fight, but it wasn't close. Mm-hmm. This fight was exciting, but it wasn't close. It was dominant. It was a performance of the night by Calvin Kattar, but it wasn't a fight of the night by any means. Brandon Royval and Rogério Bontorin went back and forward. They had an action-packed split decision where the pace didn't slow down from round 1 to round 3. So in my books, that's fight of the night. What do you think about that?
I also had the Brito Algeo fight above Giga for fight of the night. I thought that was a great back-to-back matchup. But I think people mix up the idea of fight of the night and performance of the night because Calvin Kattar, he deserved a $50,000 bonus. Giga Chikadze did not deserve a $50,000 bonus.
Yeah, but the man, also the way I feel about that is just let the man have an extra $50K. Like, I'm not mad that he got the money. I'm mad that it's being called fight of the night because people need to understand that that it should not be a fight of the night. However, with the amount of damage that Giga Chikadze took, and he just did it all for our entertainment, and he probably didn't get paid what he deserves, let the man have the $50K.
I see where you're coming from, but I also have the idea that if you wanted that extra money, maybe you should have got knockout of the night and get that other half of the paycheck as well if you really wanted the money.
True. And also, like, if Calvin Kattar had finished him in the 5th round, if he had 10 more seconds, he would have finished him, and it wouldn't have been fight of the night. It would have been a performance of the night for Calvin Kattar.
Agreed.
So just because of that, it's annoying. Anyways, moving on. Chase Sherman gets submitted by Jake Collier. Jake Collier surprises us all. I don't think any of us saw that coming. I don't think any of us knew that he had that in his arsenal because we all know him as the volume striker that he usually is. What would you think of the submission from the big boy?
I thought it was really funny. I thought the whole fight was exactly what I expected out of the first round. I expected Sherman to be circling out properly and Collier landing 1 or 2 big shots. Sherman had a really good moment in this fight. He didn't look great, but he had one time where he cracked Collier. And then, I loved Collier. And I'm a firm believer that his previous experience at middleweight and light heavyweight is why he has these kicks that you don't normally see out of heavyweights and why he has the submissions that you don't normally see out of heavyweights. And I think it's because Collier is not an actual heavyweight.
Yeah. It was a cool fight. It was a fun first round submission. Yep.
Yeah, first round
submission.
It was a really fun fight to watch back.
Yeah. All right. Next fight. Jamie Pickett gets the dog money versus Joseph Holmes. Man, I was correct in my breakdown, and the last minute I flipped to picking Joseph Holmes, but my breakdown on the podcast was correct. Jamie Pickett's experience came through. He really boxed Joseph Holmes' face off, which I didn't expect at all. Jamie Pickett looked very impressive to me as far as compared to what we've seen from him in the past. He looks like he's improved a lot. His striking looked pretty clean. He was landing a lot. I don't know if you saw Joseph Holmes' face after, but it looked pretty fucked up.
Yeah, Jamie Pickett, I would probably say, is the only guy that I got wrong in my breakdown. I think Pickett either had bad performances in the fights I watched, or he just had a great performance last night, which he did. He had a good performance, I wrote down. He was kind of as I expected, but he kind of outperformed what I was looking for. And then Holmes underperformed. I think maybe the UFC moment got to him. I think his gas tank was a big issue because I feel like his fighting style needs a big gas tank, and he didn't have it that night. So if he can fix that, I think he'll be a good fighter because he definitely had his moments. He's a very awkward fighter to fight. He's probably got the look to be a star. So if he can get his gas tank and kind of get some more form in him, I think he's going to have a great career. But all props to Pickett. You surprised me, and congrats on the win.
Yeah. Moving on. Court McGee, I mean, come on. The little engine that could. He didn't stop for 1 second during that fight. It was amazing. Takedown after takedown after takedown. Just pushing his head into Brahimaj's chest the whole time, not giving him any space to get up. And when Brahimaj got up, McGee was right back on him. His striking looked clean in between the takedowns. He was disguising his takedowns well. And Brahimaj just looked terrible to me. He looked like he didn't come prepared cardio-wise. He got tired so fast. He threw up a bunch of lazy submissions that didn't look close whatsoever. I thought it was a very underwhelming performance from Brahimaj and a very impressive performance from Court McGee. I read that man completely wrong.
I read him right. I picked him to win. One of my, I believe, 4 correct picks on the card. My bad about that. I think Brahimaj, I feel like his cardio wasn't as good as wasn't good because I don't think he thought that McGee would shoot for that many takedowns against a guy who has Brahimaj's grappling ability. Usually, he's probably used to fighting guys who would like to stay away from the ground, but McGee accepted the ground and he loved being there. And I think people do have a habit of mixing up good offensive grapplers and defensive grapplers because offensive and defensive grappling is much different if you don't know. And I think Brahimaj is an offensive grappler, and McGee caught him. I thought McGee looked really big. I thought he looked really healthy. I feel like he might have had an amazing weight cut. And I was just impressed with a guy at that age to put that type of performance with that output. And he's even talking like he wants to be the next Bisping and be the next 40-year-old champion.
Yep, I love it. I love Court McGee. I'm all in on him now. I know now that he's a guy that's going to fight for your money. Just watch out to fade him when they start giving him higher level competition. Somebody with a little more well-rounded skills and better cardio than Ramiz. Brahimaj might give the old man some issues, so we will be wary in the future. Anyways, moving on to our next fight. Dakota Bush versus Viacheslav Borschev with a great debut, getting the body shot KO. I love body shot KOs. They're so sexy. One of my favorite knockouts to watch in boxing and in mixed martial arts. Sean Woodson had a sick one earlier in 2021 that I can think of right now. Yeah, just a great performance from Slavaklaus. I think he has some nice things coming his way, some big things. I think people like him. He's got a fun nickname. He's got a fun little dance, and he knocks people out.
Yeah, I was impressed. I picked Bush to win. I think they both had their moments. It was an absolute dog fight. I would have liked to see more straights from Bush. I feel like he was very, very loopy, and especially when you're facing a top gym's striking coach, you need to be perfect on your form, straight down the middle. I saw that a lot from fighters on this card. I feel like we had a card of either really experienced or really inexperienced guys, and you could tell the difference because the inexperienced guys were flaring their arms everywhere, when the experienced guys were right down the pipe every single time. It was a clean body shot that ended it. I agree with you. I love body shots. We work on them a ton at the gym. Both guys landed power shots, and it was a really good fight on an otherwise boring card.
Yep, moving on. Brian Kelleher versus Kevin Croom. Brian Kelleher gets the decision win. Was it a split decision? I don't remember.
No, it was a unanimous decision, I believe.
Right, yeah. It was a pretty close fight, though, I thought. Brian Kelleher didn't look as impressive as he usually looks. I expected him to make more of a statement with this fight. And I thought that... Sorry, what's his name? Kevin Croom actually looked pretty good. I definitely overlooked Kevin Croom for coming in on short notice. I thought he looked really good. And Brian Kelleher let me down a little bit. I expected him to finish the short notice opposition.
I give Kelleher a pass. I feel like it was a good performance because Croom was so much of a different shaped human being.
He got the job done. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, for sure. But what you're saying is that when a fighter faces a guy on 3 days' notice, the guy who's been in a full training camp should usually finish him. I agree with that. If you guys didn't see, Kyle did shake his head, yes. But Kevin Croom is much longer than what Kelleher was training for in this entire fight camp, so I thought he needed a round to adjust to the long straights of Croom. I was very impressed with Croom. To come in on 3 days' notice and throw the amount of volume that Croom did and didn't seem to run out of gas. He hit Kelleher hard. They had good battles, but I knew that Kelleher took the fight.
Yeah. Last fight, we're gonna talk about the
second to last. You missed one the Algeo fight.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, Joanderson Brito versus Bill Algeo. I'm so disappointed in Joanderson Brito. Very disappointed in Joanderson Brito. That's all I can say about this. What do you got?
I'm disappointed, but I think he did have really good moments. He has nasty leg kicks.
Yeah.
Those were
I'm
power.
impressed. I'm impressed that Bill Algeo stayed standing for the whole fight.
Yeah, the one thing I was really upset with Brito was he was one of the guys who was throwing the big loopy punches. I'm pretty sure he took his arm in a windmill motion before every time he threw.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with UFC jitters. Like, guys just seem to, drop their fundamentals and just go for the kill. I don't know if it's being on TV or if it's just, having the UFC gloves on your hand and being like, oh, my God, I'm here. But I think that has a lot to do with the jitters.
I agree, and the really thing that upset me was Bill Algeo has terrible head movement from what I've seen, and Brito made him look like prime Anderson Silva because of these long loopy punches. And if you don't fight or you don't,
so easy to read.
They're so easy because it takes longer to connect than a punch that goes straight down the pipe. So I was really upset that Brito didn't get the win, but I guess props to Algeo for taking on the challenge and proving a lot of us wrong.
Yep. All right. Now we got our last fight of the night. TJ Brown gets the victory over Charles Rosa. This is how short notice fights usually go. In my opinion, TJ Brown pretty much dominated on the ground. My breakdown was pretty correct that TJ Brown was going to hold Charles Rosa down because he was just going to pretty much fish for crazy submissions off of his back. There were some exciting reversals in the first round, but then Charles Rosa seemed to get tired. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I went 6-4. I'm sorry, wow, 4-6 on the night. But this was the only loss that I was kind of kicking myself at because the other losses, I feel like I read the guys right and the matchup just wasn't what I thought. But this is one where I clearly read everything wrong. I let something else get into my head. A stupid meme got into my head and I picked the wrong guy. So this is a real fight that kind of bothered me. It was exactly what I should have expected, but for some reason I went a different way, which frustrates me. But I guess all props to TJ Brown because he was really tough. He did exactly what he needed to do. And I love when guys are upset after decision wins. I feel like if I was a fighter, I would be really upset with decisions. I hate guys that really celebrate them unless it's a thing like Calvin's win where it was just completely dominant, which I would say Rosa got dominated, but it wasn't in the same style. So I really like when guys get on the mic and say they wish they would have finished him.
Yeah. Calvin Kattar landed some sick elbows in that fight. I mean, there was one point where he was throwing elbows like they were punches, just in the place of punches.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's crazy.
I turned to my friends and I was like, I wonder if his hands are hurting to the point where he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to throw only elbows.
Yeah, I guess after you take a beat down from Max Holloway, you seem to develop a beautiful spinning elbow because both him and Ortega got him down.
That first one he threw in, the second round, I think?
Yeah.
That almost dropped Giga, where he slipped the punch and then came back around with the spinning elbow. Oh my God, that was so gorgeous.
He created a triangle of cuts on Giga's eye.
It was insane. I've never seen somebody's eyebrow look like it was gonna fall off so bad.
There was a time where Calvin threw 2 elbows in a row, just bum, bum, and someone tweeted that it looked like his character in UFC 4 learned a new move and they were trying it out in sparring.
That is what it really looked like. Because the sparring partner in UFC 4 that just doesn't do anything, he just stands there and hit him.
And he got to get X amount of damage with the one type of strike, and it looked like Calvin's goal was to get as many elbow damage as he could.
Yeah, that is really what it looked like. All right, well, what a great card it was. Kind of a sleeper card, but like I said, the main event really made up for it, so I'm just going to keep saying it was a great card. Let's move on. We're going to matchmake for the main card winners. We're going to go back and forward. We're going to each say who we think each winner should fight next, and just maybe a little bit of a reason why, and then if we pick a different fighter, we can debate. If we pick the same fighter, we can agree in loving happiness. All right?
Yes.
So I'm going to start with Calvin Kattar, the big winner of the night. I picked Brian Ortega for him to fight next. I think it's going to be a great fight. The featherweight division is kind of thin at the top, and with the Korean Zombie getting the next title shot, obviously Calvin Kattar isn't going to fight Max Holloway again. Max Holloway is going to get the next title shot when he's healthy, so who else is there for Calvin Kattar to really fight?
Yeah, I had Ortega first, and I had the Korean Zombie if he loses the title fight, and if Calvin wants to wait the time to fight the Korean Zombie, and I had Yair as a last option if both those guys say no.
Yair's going to need a lot more time. That's the only reason why I didn't say Yair. I think Yair and Calvin would be a better matchup because they're both strikers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Yair is going to need too much time. I think Calvin's going to want to come back a little sooner because he took almost no damage in this fight. His face always gets red in his fights, but I don't think he took as much damage as it looks like he took. He's one of those fighters that doesn't wear damage well.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think the Ortega fight's really good because it kind of proves if Calvin should be in the upper echelon of the division.
Right.
And if Ortega can keep it.
If he beats Brian Ortega, then depending on where Max Holloway is in the picture, Calvin Kattar deserves a title shot or at least another crack at Max Holloway.
I agree.
Depending who's the champion.
I agree.
Next, Jake Collier. Who'd you pick?
My biggest guy was Tanner Bosner. I think that would be a really fun fight. I feel like it's just two heavyweights that like to go out there and sling it, but can both go to the ground. And then other options, I had Hardy, who just dropped out of next week's fight.
That's interesting. I looked at Greg Hardy, too, as an option for mine.
I have Chris Barnett and Tafa in there because I think those would all be really fun throwing fights.
My pick was Justin Tafa, who just came off a win of Harry Hunsucker, who might be the worst fighter in the whole UFC. But the reason I'm picking Justin Tafa is because I'm pretty sure that's who Jake Collier called out in the octagon after he won.
I think he said Orlovsky.
No, Justin Tafa tweeted about him, and Jake Collier said, yeah, I'll fight Justin Tafa if he can make weight.
Cool.
So that's the main reason I picked Justin Tafa, and they're both close to each other in, like, the rankings as far as I'm concerned. Even though the rankings don't go that high in my rankings, they're pretty close to each other. So, yeah, that's my pick.
I agree.
Sorry.
I think that would be a really fun fight.
Yeah. I looked at Greg Hardy, too, as an option, but I just feel like Greg Hardy might just be a little bit too powerful for Jake Collier. And you know how Greg Hardy caught Tai Tuivasa, but
he hit him hard.
But Tai Tuivasa came back in with something harder. If Greg Hardy catches Jake Collier with something like that, Jake Collier ain't coming back with something harder.
You know what I was thinking about? I think we should give Dan Hardy a title shot right now just to see him get absolutely killed. Because I would love to see that man just get absolutely obliterated.
You mean Greg Hardy?
Yeah, Greg Hardy. My apologies. I want to see him get a title shot against Francis right now so Francis can just fucking send a fist through that man's face.
Yeah. All right, next fight, next winner. Brandon Royval. My pick is Alexander Pantoja. I think that's a title eliminator fight. I think Askarov and Kai Kara-France is also a title eliminator fight. So if you can get those two fights happening, maybe at around the same time, that would be really cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. My first guy, I actually had Garbrandt in there because I feel like that would be a really fun fight to watch because they both move a lot. If Garbrandt stays at 25.
Okay.
I have Manuel Cape in there because I feel like he just had a really good performance and maybe he needs someone higher ranked. I think Royval might be a little too high ranked. And then I had the Moreno versus Figgy loser because I feel like whoever loses that fight is going to need a fight of a top guy, and I feel like Royval can offer that to both of them.
Interesting. I like it.
Let me check something for you.
Moving on, or you don't want to move on? You want to stay on this for a second?
Royval already fought Pantoja.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, he did. Royval,
he has.
Royval lost to Pantoja by a rear naked choke.
Okay. So my pick is doo-doo. Anyways, moving on. Katlyn Chookagain. I say, well, you actually brought up an interesting point today. You want to go ahead and tell everybody what's going on with Katlyn Chookagain's status as a UFC fighter?
Katlyn Chookagain is officially a free agent. And
is that true?
And if you don't know what that means she's not signed to any promotion and she can pick based on what promotions give her contracts. She tried to get a deal done with the UFC. Before the fight, they said no. I fully expect the UFC to give her a deal. I feel like they just needed to see if she could still fight at a high level, and she proved that she can. So I think they do give her a contract. What do you think?
I agree. I think she gets her contract again, and honestly, I think she might be next in line for a title shot against Valentina Shevchenko. Depending on what they decide to do with Valentina, they might decide to give her a double champ shot. But yeah, I really just don't see who else there is to feed Valentina Shevchenko at this point. So why not give Katlyn Chookagain the rematch that she asked for after she won the fight?
The reason I didn't have Valentina in here, for Valentina's sake, I guess she would take that fight. I feel like Valentina kind of is in a boring position where she's already beat literally everyone. So I stayed away from the title picture for Chookagian, even though I wouldn't be surprised if she got it. And I think I can see her as a short-term gatekeeper. So I have Lauren Murphy needs a rebound fight. I feel like Chookagian might be a good one. Alexa Grasso needs a big-time fight soon. I feel like Grasso could be a good idea. Or if they really want to challenge Casey O'Neill, I feel like O'Neill versus Chookagian would be a really good fight.
I feel like they don't want to move Casey O'Neill up that fast, and plus she has a fight coming up against Roxanne Modafferi. So maybe after she beats Roxanne Modafferi, we can talk about getting her like a top 10, maybe top 8 fight.
Maybe Jennifer Maia.
But yeah, maybe Jennifer Maia. But my pick, if not a title shot for Katlyn Chookagain, was Jessica Andrade. I think Katlyn Chookagain at this point should get somebody coming off a win and get somebody who is also maybe 1 or 2 fights away from the title, not somebody in Lauren Murphy who's coming off of a title loss. I think Katlyn Chookagain deserves that, and I think Andrade would be a pretty good matchup for her because of the reach advantage that Chookagain would have, but she would have a serious strength advantage. Anyways, I think that would be an interesting fight.
Do you want Chookagain to just go through all of her rematches in a row?
Yeah. I mean, what's the option with these flyweights? There's
That's
not
true.
that many options in the top 5 of flyweight.
That's the issue with the female divisions. Is it kind of just gets weary and kind of just wears out.
I thought I checked, and Chookagain had not fought Andrade.
I think
did
she
I miss
did.
it?
Let me check.
No,
again.
she did not. I definitely checked this because I wanted to make sure I didn't pick somebody that. Double check for me because I'm pretty sure she has not fought Jessica Andrade yet. I'll try and pull it up right now too.
Katlyn Chookagain lost to Jessica Andrade.
Oh, I see it. Yep. Sorry,
2020.
guys.
That's +2 on the counter.
Sorry, guys. My pick is doo-doo again. But no, my pick was actually the title shot. So my backup pick was doo-doo. Anyways, with that, let's move on. Our second to last main card winner, Slava Claus, Viacheslav Borschev. What were your picks?
I have Jeremy Stephens. I think Jeremy Stephens would be an intriguing matchup to high-level strikers, and I think they would go toe-to-toe. I had Jim Miller in there, and then maybe Terrence McKinney, the young blood who wants to fight. A guy who has some skills, so I think all three of those make sense for me, but I would definitely go with Jeremy Stephens.
Cool. I picked Rafa Garcia, the gifted, who just beat Nathan Levy. I think that would be a good fight. Again, two guys who are close to each other in my rankings, two up-and-comers in the lightweight division. I also put a little asterisk and had Paddy Pimblett. I looked at that. I think the two of them would make a really good fight. Actually, scratch. Fuck Rafa Garcia. Paddy Pimblett's my pick. I think that they both are really fun guys. Slava Claus versus the baddie. I mean, who doesn't want to see that?
I would love to, even though Borshchev is a team alpha male, I would love to see him beat the young blood Paddy Pimblett. I don't like him.
Yep. All right. Last winner of the main card, Mr. Bill Algeo. My pick is Ludovic Klein. Ludovic Klein is coming off of 2 losses. I think he's somebody that the UFC had initially wanted to succeed, and I think Bill Algeo is a fight that they can give him to kind of bounce back. And since Bill Algeo is coming off a win, it makes sense to give him a little bit of a name that has some recognition, but I still think it's a winnable fight for Ludovic Klein, and it's an opportunity for him to get back on the right path. See, even with my pick, I'm trying to fade Bill Algeo. That's how much I dislike him.
I agree. I gave Bill some guys who I think are comparable in skill to him. I have Derek Minner, who just lost to one of the most one-dimensional fighters in the entire UFC. Yeah, I feel like they kind of look alike as well. I feel like that would just be a decent matchup. I don't like either guy. I think Gabriel Benitez might have a shot at getting Bill Algeo. Or a guy that was on this card, I think Bill Algeo versus Kevin Croom would be a really fun fight to watch.
Yeah, let Kevin Croom get a full training camp. I think he will beat Bill Algeo.
I agree.
Cool. Well, if you guys have any suggestions for matchmaking, if you guys want to submit any picks for the winners of the main cards, you know where to hit us up. Family Fights Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And I have some exciting news.
What's that?
It is pay-per-view fight week, UFC 270, and I am getting my ass on a plane, and I'm flying to Orange County, California, and I'm going to watch the fight in person. I'm very excited to see the heavyweights duke it out in person. It's the first UFC fight I'm going to without my little cousin Matthew.
Yeah.
Sad.
I was invited for everyone that's going to be like a dick asking, why did you bring him? No, I was invited. My senior night for hockey is that night, so I have to show up for the boys. Very excited for you to go. I feel like that's going to be a really fun fight to watch and a really bucket list item to tell your kids one day.
Yep, so I'm bringing my girlfriend instead. Anyways,
that's a better option.
Since it's fight week, it's a good option. We'll have some fun in California. We're going to Disneyland.
Fun. That makes me happy.
Yeah, our hotel is like a 10-minute walk from Disneyland.
My girlfriend loves Disneyland.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Anyways, since it's fight week, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with these two fights. And the stories behind these two fights are really interesting. I mean, both fights have kind of this fighter leaves gym and their opponent is being coached by their old coach. storyline with Francis Ngannou leaving Paris and now Cyril Gane training with Francis Ngannou's old team, and Brandon Moreno used to train at Fight Ready with Henry Cejudo, and now that is Davis and Figueiredo's training camp for this fight. So what do you think? Who wins each of these fights? Just right initially. I know we have the breakdown episode coming up this week.
Initially?
What are your initial picks?
Initially, my gut's telling me Francis, and initially, not even my gut, I know Brandon Moreno is going to beat Figgy again.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot leading up to this fight, and I'm going with Cyril Gane and Brandon Moreno as well.
No, I went with Francis.
Yeah, I'm going with Brandon Moreno
Oh,
as well.
my bad. I don't know English, guys.
No, I know Cyril Gane's different. No, I'm going with Brandon Moreno as well. Anyways, we got a quick 40-minute episode for you guys. I'm really busy. I'm trying to catch up on all my homework before I have to go to California so that I'll have time to shoot the breakdown episode for you guys from my hotel. That's right. I'm taking my microphone on the plane. I'm going to be that crazy person, and I'm going to set up a little podcasting studio in my hotel room, probably kick my girlfriend out, tell her to go for a walk or something, and record the breakdown for you guys live from UFC 270.
Yeah, fighting over girls, guys. Come on.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I got to get back to making my mom's birthday cake. Yeah, it was a fun episode. Lots to talk about. Now that fights are back into the swing of things, we're going to have a lot more to talk about, and it's going to get easier and easier to do these episodes. So thanks again for tuning in through 5 episodes. This is a ton of fun for Matthew and I. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Have a great day, guys.
Family fights. Let's do it.